Welcome to Hierasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science, hosted by Hierasmus, the leading clinical platform for ABA therapy. Each episode highlights inspiring stories from experts and individuals with unique perspectives. Join us as we explore valuable insights and foster empowerment within the autism community. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Hierasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science. I'm your host, Amy, and today I'm joined by two incredible guests who have made a huge impact in the ABA community. We have Shayna Gaunt and Shira Karpel, founders of How to ABA. So if you are a BCBA, RBT, or anyone in the field of ABA, you've probably come across How to ABA, whether through their online community, podcast, or incredible resources. Shayna and Shira have built a space where ABA professionals can connect, learn, and grow together. And today we're going to dive into the interesting topic of friendship, community, and social media in ABA, and how these two met, built a thriving platform, and their thoughts on the role of social media in our profession. So Shayna and Shira, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How's it going today?
Thank you so much, Amy. It's so nice to be on this side of the podcast, being interviewed instead of being the interviewer. It's great.
Yes. So let's kind of go back to the beginning. And if one of you wants to share how you first two met and kind of what drew you two to working together.
Sure. It's a bit of a story. I guess we'll start with I was a teacher.
Okay.
I was about to move to Toronto and I didn't love being in the classroom. Like I was looking for something more. I wanted to get more into early intervention. And someone connected me to Shayna because I was like trying to learn more about this ABA thing. And we had a phone conversation and she was like helpful, but it ended there and I moved to Toronto. And I just started to try to get my own clients and try to learn more about this ABA thing. And I ended up getting onto a client that they hired me to be the ABA therapist. And the first day that their supervisor came to observe, it was Shayna. So she started by supervising me, both as an ABA therapist and then ultimately for my BCBA. So we worked together for many, many years. And then in about, 2017, I said, like, we have so much good stuff here. And we've kind of created, like online drives we're starting and everything was virtual. And I said, like, people really need to see this. Like, they need access to all of this stuff because so many people are starting with nothing. We had each other and we were able to, like, once we had worked together for so many years, we knew each other well, we could like run ideas off of each other and we had access to all this programming that, we created. And I thought that people could really benefit from having quality ABA programs that they could access. For more people being able to share those resources, the field could be better. The clients would get better quality ABA. And so I kind of pitched the idea to Shayna, who, was on board. At first thought it was like a little crazy.
Uh-huh.
But that's how to ABA started.
Awesome. So it wasn't that you were looking for a mentor with an SH name. I thought it was kind of funny that you both have such similar names, but just a coincidence that y'all kind
Just a
of came together.
coincidence.
So
Yes.
cool. Okay, well, maybe Shayna, you can talk a little bit more kind of how the start of ABA, of how to ABA, and kind of what that journey looked like once you guys had decided, let's do something with all these great resources and ideas.
For sure. I mean, it was, we're going back. It sounds silly because 2017 wasn't that long ago, but it really was just before social media, I think, or just before the reliance on social media and before, everybody had these large communities. And there was really not a lot out there. And I've been a BCBA since 2005. And, really it came down to me working with kids in their basements usually, or in their playrooms or bedrooms or something. And I was lonely. There was nobody else out there to share ideas with. And when Shira approached me with this idea, I thought, wow, this is really great because we can build this community and people don't have to be lonely anymore. But not only that, there's a lot of people out there
there who, like me, we built our own materials from scratch because that's all there was. And there's a lot of people who are saying, well, no, I'm not sharing. This is mine. This is mine. And we thought, well, let's give it all away. Let's get it out there because it really is important for people to know. So that's, how the inception of How to ABA came along. And then like Shira and I still, this is a part-time job for us. We are still BCBAs in the field and we still have full-time jobs. So we're maintaining this on the side and I love it. It's a passion project for me. I'm typically together with Shira every Thursday. And, I leave, my How to ABA day and I feel exhilarated by the end of it because, we have a mentorship meeting or we've done a CEU, or we have, question and answers in our community, or we're creating new content. And it's just so awesome to see where we came from and where we are now.
And one of the things that I think also prompted us to create this resource was that, as the field was growing, which was exploding, and it continues to explode, where BCBAs are being certified at a really quick rate these days, and people weren't getting access to quality supervision. It just isn't possible. There aren't enough trained BCBAs to be able to put in the amount of time and hours that, I know that Shayna put into me. And so we really wanted to help improve the quality of ABA that all the clients were getting and give more people access to that because we believe that, ABA's kind of moved towards a bit of like a cookie cutter model, and we really don't believe in that. We think that every child should get an individualized program that is unique to them, that also thinks about the big picture and it isn't caught in the details. And so as we're seeing the field move towards, more of the cookie cutter style programming, we wanted to put this out there so that we could train people with a model of ABA that is, it's really, I don't know, like not better, but how it's supposed to be. I think we've kind of left some of our roots by relying too much on curriculum and on programs that are just, taken from somewhere that nobody understands how to write a program. And so we wanted to create more of that. And that's really how we started. I think in 2017, I think we held like a 6-part training series on how to program for students with autism. We did that over the summer. And we would meet every week with the people who entered our program and we would give them access to our programs and we would train them on how to write the programs. And a lot of our resources are, what we call like foundations, where we kind of train people how to think like a BCBA. So it's not just about pulling things out of a book and like, putting it in a client's binder, but it's about really understanding the whole process of creating programs and approaching a client and doing an intake. So that became a big part of what we do.
Very cool. Well, I love that you both still practice some part-time because I just think that makes it so much more relatable. You're kind of, so to speak, in the trenches with others and able to, apply the latest research and all those things, but exactly, what it feels like to kind of be in their shoes. So kind of talking about your partnership, and what strengths would you say that each of you bring to the table and how do you balance responsibilities? Maybe you can kind of brag on each other, but curious what similarities and differences you
Um,
might
Totally. I remember when we started talking about this idea, I said, Shayna, I'll do the marketing, you do the teaching. And it
have.
was like, you do you write programs and you train, and I will think of everything else. And that's really what happened, right? Like I, would sit down at night and after, working during the day, I would come home and I would plug away at how to create really like the technical part of it. Like how do people hear about us? And
Yeah.
how do we create a way to collect email addresses? Or how do we even, this was before 2020 when Zoom wasn't even a thing. And so we had to discover Zoom and we had to figure out how to put ourselves online and market it and create branding. And so I kind of like took a lot of that on. And Shayna provides a lot of the content. I think as it evolved, we do a lot more content sharing now. And we kind of like, we each, I think, are good at doing what we're comfortable with and good at.
Yeah, I mean, this year is talking about all the marketing and the, behind the scenes with the website and everything else. My brain just turned off. Like, no, okay, that's Shira's department. The all of those data sheets and everything else that was from, our my library from way back when, and it's been tweaked and updated and everything else. And we've come out with some, PowerPoint training slides. We've come out with, some series, fact series, and training up people on compassionate behavior management and that kind of thing. And, a lot of that was me and Shira now, though. I mean, we've worked together for so long. She gives a lot of the input on that now, but it was very much, I was okay, I am the, information behind How to ABA, and Shira is the marketing and the management of everything.
Yeah, Shayna's really good at like being efficient and also like very productive. So anytime we need like something created, like she'll have it done very, very quickly and it'll be really, really good. So any course that we want to create, like it's like, it's done very quickly and she writes things up very effectively. I think when we think of like the dimensions of ABA, like it's very technological and it's very effective and like that's definitely a strength and like getting things out and onto and written in a way that people can understand it and follow it.
I think in teaching steps, I
Yeah.
just do. Anybody can say, oh, I need to do something here. I'm going on an airplane tomorrow. And, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, desensitization to the airplane, this, and this. Or, oh, I need to do
Task
this,
analysis.
Just think like that. So.
I love that. Awesome. Yeah. What year did the podcast start? I definitely remember the first time I was listening to it, which is kind of odd, but I always, wherever I am, that image gets to, in my head. And I remember where I was walking. I was taking a little walking
Well,
break listening to
I
it.
don't know. That's a good question. We're on episode 194 right now. We're almost on our 200th episode. So divide that. It comes out every week.
I think it was 2021. It was definitely during like COVID-ish
That's what I
time
was
that we
thinking.
were like, we
I was
need
going to say,
to,
yeah,
yeah.
I
Is that
must have been early on because it seems like at the time, now there's quite a bit of ABA podcasts, but there weren't that many because I think it was, I was, listening to all of them and came across yours. And I definitely liked that kind of step by step. And the fact that the episodes are short too, it helps. It's kind of concise to
Yeah.
the point. And definitely awesome. Okay, well, let's talk more about obviously you guys have developed a lot of great resources, but you've also developed a wonderful ABA community. So we know that ABA sometimes can feel isolating, especially for those working in different settings or regions. How do you see How to ABA creating a sense of community for professionals? And was that initially part of the vision, or did that come afterwards?
That was always the vision. And I think that
Okay.
was our vision first, was the community, and everything else fell into place. But I have to say, our community is so amazing. We have such nice people in our community, and everyone is so thoughtful, grateful, respectful of each other. It's just so pleasant, and I love it.
And I think when we thought back to how we, designed the business, the thing that we came out with, which is really our, flagship product, is our membership.
Mhm.
We could have created courses that people can buy one off, and we do have some of those and some downloads. But the reason that in 2018 we came out with this membership was because we felt so strongly about giving people a sense of like belonging. Like you are a member now, like you belong here. You can access everything in this membership. You can have our downloads, have our resources, have our courses, and have access to us because we needed to create this idea of like, you're not alone. Within our membership, we meet at least twice a month live. We'll do a live webinar once a month, and we do a live mentorship once a month. We did that just today. We came from our mentorship, and we have people from all over the world logging in. It's like so interesting to hear how ABA gets applied in other countries. And we love when people share ideas with each other. It's really what it's about. We also have people within our resources being able to ask questions like, that people can respond to or give suggestions. Because back to what we felt strongly about, it wasn't just about having access to a CEU, but it was having like well-trained BCBAs. And part of being well-trained is having access to be able to answer questions. Nobody knows everything, and nobody in the field should feel like they do. And if you do, you're probably in the wrong profession because you never have all the answers. And so if that's the idea, we're a growing field, you have to continue to evolve as a professional. How do you do that?
Yes, that's awesome. So, have there been any moments where you've really felt the impact of how to ABA in the community? Like any stories that stand out with members of your community that you all want to share?
Sarah and I are both smiling because, we were thinking about the exact same. As soon as we were in Boston a few years ago at the ABAI conference, and we gave a presentation, and we walked out of the presentation, and somebody was like, "It's you guys!" And we were
Oh,
in the hall together, and both of us looked behind
We're
our
like,
shoulders.
who's there?
We looked
Who's
behind
there?
us to see who was there, and they were actually saying, "Hey, it's you guys," to us. And I think that was the first moment that we were like, "Oh, wow, people actually know who we are." And that was really incredible.
And I think we do this at home 1 day a week. Like I said, we have other jobs. And so like while we plug away 1 day a week, it's usually just me and Shayna sitting in my house, recording video. And we forget how much it goes into the world. And because we're not always interacting with those people, it's often like really nice, but also surprising when people are, seeing us at conferences or seeing us at workshops and being like, your YouTube videos got me through grad school, or this strategy that you suggested changed my life with my child. So thank you. And like, it's always a little bit surprising for us to remember like how many people have access to what we have to talk about now and how many people are interested in hearing what we have to say. But every once in a while we get those little reminders. We also, like Shayna was saying, our community is really phenomenal. And so they remind us, they'll post comments or just, thank you so much. This really helped in this way. And so we're able to get that feedback from our community. And so even though it's not like, day to day interacting with everybody, because, this is just a 1 day a week thing, it's nice to have those reminders that like what we put out to the world is really making a difference.
absolutely. That's awesome. Well, let's talk more about the role of social media in our field, because that's where a lot of conversations are happening now. But it certainly also has some challenges. So, what are your thoughts on the ABA online community in general, not just with how to ABA, and kind of how do you think it's changed over the years?
Um, it's a great question. It's like a whole topic in and of itself. I have a love-hate relationship for sure with social media. I see for us, our business was not built on social media. Social media is probably one of our smallest platforms. We have a lot of other channels that we access. When we say we have a great community, we really do have a great community.
Mhm.
I think that social media can breed a little bit of negativity.
Mhm.
I think that it's also a challenge when people are looking to social media for like professional opinions or professional advice. So I go back and forth between like, I want to be able to spread our message and spread what How to ABA wants to do. But at the same time, there is a danger to social media in so many ways, in just, what dangerous misinformation can be spread on social media and then it becomes truth. I think that that's the hard part. When you believe that what you see on social media is true, there's really no way, or people aren't encouraged to like look into that. Like, is this actually accurate? But someone said it on social media, so it must be. And then it perpetuates because then the algorithm will show you more of that truth. And then you're falling deeper into this rabbit hole of misinformation. And so, it's really a challenge these days, for businesses like ours, but also for anyone who's practicing in the field to be able to rely on anything they're seeing on social media.
Absolutely. And I promise you didn't make me tear up. I've got really bad allergies. So those of you that are watching the video, I went on mute, but I almost just had a little coughing fit. So y'all have to bear with my voice, but I think it's coming back now.
We interviewed Peter Gerhardt probably a couple months ago, and it was great. I love him. He's amazing, and he's done such a great job for this field. But during our interview, I did exactly that. I went into this massive coughing fit, and I wasn't sick. I didn't have allergies. I just couldn't stop the coughing, and it was awful. And it was so funny then afterwards. So I'm coughing, Shira's laughing. We should have saved that outtake. Anyways, that's
Oh.
what it reminded me of.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden, the second half, my voice is going to be a lot deeper, it sounds like, but maybe it'll come back. But one thing that I do want to talk about is like the reliability. Do you think that social media is a reliable way for BCBAs to stay up to date with best practices? What do you
Definitely
think?
not.
No, I
What?
mean, you and I both, as soon as you say, we both took this deep breath, right? And this, yes, there is that love-hate relationship. And, social media has a lot of benefits in the fact that it can reach a whole bunch of people and, can disseminate information very quickly. But that's also the
Mhm.
con of social media is that it's got a lot of people and the reach is really large and, you can disseminate like bad information really quickly as well. For BCBAs to stay up to date, social media can be great for, hey, you know what, check out this CEU. Here's, what this offers, or, check out this new thing, but actually go to the research to do it. For BCBAs, just looking at social media to get all their updated information, I would say is probably misinformation.
Yeah, anyone
Absolutely.
can build their reputation on social media. It's
And on,
surprisingly easy.
and on opinions,
Yeah.
right?
Like you can become an expert very quickly on social media, and there is no vetting process of like, what are you an expert in? And like, what kind of research are you bringing? And I know even from our social media account, like, I mean, we do what's evidence-based and like, would like to think we're reliable, but I wouldn't encourage somebody to even just base it off of our social media account. We have our website with our blogs and our resources and our CEUs, and I would encourage people to rely more on that than on anything that even I'm saying on social media.
Absolutely. Okay. So, what advice would you have for some new professionals that are like maybe they're trying to build a network or find mentorship? Is it safe to, to do that online? And what would you think about that?
It would be go to the source. So making sure that you're up to date in reading journal articles. If you're not reading the journal articles, at least getting the abstracts to your email and looking to see what's new that way. And then looking at that. If you are seeing something on social media that makes you question something, go to the source, go back to those journal articles. If you're seeing something on social media that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But on the flip side of things, if you're seeing something on social that looks fabulous, still go to the source. So I think the advice that I have for newly minted BCBAs or any BCBA or anybody out there is that social media isn't the be all and end all. We have to realize that these are most people's like these are opinions versus fact. And if we really want the information, we need to go to the source.
And I think be very wary of buzzwords. I think when people can use those buzzwords on social media to generate interest, and it's also there's a dangerous side to it. The board, the BCBA, the BACB isn't necessarily a regulatory board, so they're not looking at there are a lot of professions who can't post certain things on social media. They're not allowed. Like they would lose their license if they were posting opinions on so many different topics. And we don't have that level of regulation as to like what we're allowed to say or not allowed to say on social media. And it really can go too far. And there's no repercussions, which is really unfortunate to have opinions that could be harming, groups or individuals. We work with a lot of diverse populations, with a lot of, minorities, with a lot of people with disabilities and different abilities. And it becomes a world where everyone's wrong and I'm only right. And everyone has to be part of this movement or you're unethical. And I think having this like black and white world of social media, um, is a very dangerous place to be.
That is a
So
great
back to your
point.
question about, where to go. It's why we exist. So come to How
Mhm.
to Today and join our community. If it's not enough, we do offer, more one-to-one mentorship and supervision through one of our community managers. But I also really encourage, and this is part of why we still work in the field, work with people. Find people around you who you can learn from. We see so many BCBAs who are, newly minted and they're ready for that like clinical director role, and I want to run my own practice. And it's not a good decision most of the time.
Mhm.
Maybe you'll be successful. Like I'm not saying you won't be, but I think you'll gain so much more from working with people. Experience is your best teacher, and without the experience, you may not be doing the best that you can. So I would really encourage people, even newly minted, even if you have your BCBA, even if you've been a BCBA for years, work with people that you can grow with and that you can learn from.
Love that. All great advice on there. So within not just social media, it could be your membership or the podcast, just different resources out there. What types of content do you see resonating most within the ABA community?
So there is a lot of interest in, SBT and PFA. It's Dr. Gregory Hanley and this like almost paradigm shift with like today's ABA. I think it's fantastic that people are interested in that. So a lot of behavior management stuff is things that we're talking about. We're talking a lot in our community about specifically SBT, but even if you're not, doing the full PFA SBT, I think we can pull a lot of the cooperation over compliance. We have a whole video series called Facts, which talks about how to build cooperation as opposed to just thinking about compliance and how to do that. Um, we are also talking a lot about anxiety, a lot about things that maybe used to be called mentalistic. Like we don't go there as behavior analysts. I think we need to go there. And I think we need to tackle more private events and think about how things like anxiety and ADHD affect behavior and affect individuals on so many levels. And I think that that really complements the whole movement towards cooperation because we're really trying to understand people as opposed to, reducing challenging behavior. I think we have so many more skills than being the people who stop somebody from hitting. There's so much more we could do with behavior analysis that is so exciting that we can, really spread our wings into.
Yes, I listened to your guys' episode on ADHD and anxiety. That was a great one. So any listeners that want to learn more, I would check that one out for sure. So really cool. Well, let's kind of talk about looking ahead. So we know that How to ABA has grown so much over the years. What's next? Any exciting projects or goals for the future?
We have been working on a new website now for 2 years. It feels like
Wow.
forever. And we keep saying it's going to be released soon. It's going to be soon. But I think we're actually very soon. Let's hope so, anyways. We're pretty close to that development. And with that new website comes just better features, easier to navigate through everything, as well as the functionality to be able to have group purchases, right? So you can be in a school board and have your whole school board, be a part of How to ABA instead of just individual members.
I love that. Super exciting.
And we also have something called the Facts series that Shira mentioned before, which is Foundations in Compliance. No, not compliance, compassion. It's away from compliance. It's Foundations of Compassion training series. And it's what it is. It's moving away from that compliance based. And we've been talking to people within school boards and also within ABA programs whereby, they can't train everyone. So, you go through, there's people who are ABA trained and there's people who aren't. And what I'm hearing from, some schools, from group homes, is that we need like 10-minute quick series on here's what to do when. So we've got 20 videos that are all 10 minutes or less each. And the idea is to watch one a day. So, maybe on a staff break, you watch that video. And then there's an accompanied handout with that video. So that's called the Facts series. And that's we've just created that. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I think we're moving towards, we definitely support the BCBA, and I think we've been doing that for years. But now the BCBAs are telling us, like, help me train my staff, help me get this message out there because it's not just me, it's my RBTs, it's my paraprofessionals, it's my teachers. So we've been working on how to do that for them and how to create access for more people that a BCBA works with so that they also have our support in training staff, not just on, them getting the knowledge that they need.
Awesome. So if you were going to give just one piece of advice to a BCBA looking to build connections in the field, what would it be?
How to ABA?
Could I say that membership? But I think it's also what we said earlier is it's find people that you can work with, that you can learn from, because it only just begins once you become a BCBA. You really need to then start learning how to be a BCBA. And so just surround yourself with supportive people and a supportive community that can help you do that.
I would have said the same thing. Call a friend, find a friend.
Awesome. Well, we like to close our podcast by focusing on our HighRasmus slogan, which is to stay focused on the child in front of you. So we like our guests to think about if you have your own children or nieces, nephews, or any of the children closest to you. So, how do you stay focused on the child in front of you while also growing this online community? And I'll let each of you
By
answer.
by the way, I love your slogan. It is just so perfect and it resonates so well with so many people. My advice would be, or the way I do it is put down my phone. And I really do. I make sure that I have my phone down for at least 10 minutes. It's usually longer and it's, been longer for a while, but start with 5 to 10 minutes a day or 5 to 10 minutes during a certain period. Put down your phone and really focus in on what's in front of you.
I think it's definitely a challenge. I think part of what we've done with our business is being able to compartmentalize a little bit. So we know that Thursdays we got really good at batching. We know that the rest of the week we're working and we can compartmentalize that. And then I think similar to what Shayna said, like I make sure that our family has time together at least once a week. I make sure that when I try so that when I'm at work, I'm focused on work. When I'm at How to ABA, I'm focused on that. And that leaves me the ability to some extent focus on my family when I need to. But it's definitely a challenge.
Both great advice. I love that. So, well, this has been such a great conversation, Shayna and Shira. Thank you for sharing your journey, your insights, and wisdom with us. For anyone who wants to learn more, be sure to check out How to ABA, their website resources, and of course, their podcast. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Hierasmus and Friends. Thanks for joining us on Hierasmus and Friends, Stories Behind the Science. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to share inspiring stories and foster empowerment within the autism community. See you next time.